Okay, Eric, we're live, Facebook Live, and thanks for joining me on this show. So, I've kind of billed you as the number one side hustler I know, and I go back a lot of years with you. We go back all the way to MBA school together,
Right.
and we had some good times in school, and some of them were outrageously good times by way of just we took some great classes, but we had a lot of good laughs, and we bonded a lot. This was like, I don't know, what, 15 years ago? Is that right?
Yeah, like 15, 16 years ago.
15, 16 years ago, right? And at that time, you were, I didn't realize it, but you were side hustling in college when I knew you, and you didn't even tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really a, relevant topic at that point.
You didn't just bring it up and tell everybody, it was one of those things that if you needed to know, you knew.
Right? Yeah, I don't think you have to be so outward with it. You just do what you do, and
right.
That's it.
People that like the things you like will be attracted to you. Like we mentioned, you were in the video game items world there for a while, right? High school, and that bled into college, right?
Yeah. I mean, I started in high school, and kind of college was when I first kind of really turned it on to say like, oh wow, there's some potential to make money in this business, and people weren't really doing it. So then we were playing a lot. We thought, oh man, how do we leverage spending 16, 18 hours a day playing video games into making money? And then next thing you know, you're on eBay, and this is before PayPal. People Western Union your checks. You're going to pick them up. You're mailing checks out to other people across the country to, for their items, and then you get dinged maybe for a little bit of IP, but whatever.
And you were asking me earlier if you should be using your video game headset or just regular mic. I said, man, I think now that you're fully in full adulthood, I think the video game headset I think we just play you as a straight up adult entrepreneur for this call.
I don't really, I don't mind it, because the truth be told, before we got on this conversation, I had the headset on, I was playing games. So, so it wasn't like that's ever stopped. It's not ever gonna stop.
Right. It's just who you are.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we get started here, the first thing I want to do is just kind of jump right into my little opening slides, right? Is that taking over the screen? Can you see it okay?
Yeah, it takes my screen, but that's fine. I mean, I don't mind.
Yeah, but you can see it there. I'm sharing it out pretty good,
right?
Right?
I see it, yeah.
So good. So my little opening line here for this week, April 21st, 2020, we're midway in this pandemic, and so hold up. You drank without me. That wasn't fair.
Oh, my bad. Cheers.
All right. This is why we're doing after hours. So we are here like at the hump, right, of this thing. Right? And I remember 4 weeks ago, not everybody realized what was about to happen. And I think some of us older dogs, we felt it. We knew it sooner because we've been through through tough times, so a few recessions or so forth. And this is not exactly a recession, but we remember what it was like. Matter of fact, you and I both met at school during not the last recession, but the recession before that. And I was there because of I was in business school because of that recession, right? I felt like, hey, I'm just going to go get my education and get my MBA while this thing is going down, right? And I was a little older than you, so I was, taking a break from
a little bit,
yeah. And so when this thing started happening a few weeks ago, we immediately thought cash conservation. I immediately thought about job security. I immediately thought about all the things that unfolded during those previous times. A lot of people don't remember. Some do, some don't. So that's kind of why I've got this title out here. Kind of, has it sunk in yet? Because, and I think the answer is probably yes, right? So I felt like we went through a couple stages. The first couple of weeks was a little bit of denial, a little bit of that, and then it went into the shock of it all a week or two ago. And then now I feel like people are kind of realizing that this is real. What are your thoughts?
I mean, for me, I think it's a little bit different. Day one was pretty real for me. I trained in New York City, so it's still very tangible, still very palpable, still very real to feel like part of that medical community. And then, I have friends who are kind of going through it, to see some people that we knew going through training that aren't here anymore, that are gone, to hear about young people, losing young people to this. Yeah, it definitely hits you, and you understand it a little bit. Maybe more than general population. You get a little more upset than general population, just because it's not really palpable to them somewhat. I mean, they get that they have to stay home. They get angry about staying home, and they don't see, maybe here, especially in Florida, they don't see the direct impact to their friends in their community. I think if you talk to my friends from New York City, some of them have had this themselves and who have self-quarantined, self-isolated, it's a different feeling for them. They feel it. They're frontlining it. They see it directly in a much different way. I'm not downplaying what the people here are seeing, but there's 256,000 cases in New York City as of today. There's 20,000 here in all of Florida. So yeah, it's a little different.
Well, Eric, when I met you, you lived in Sarasota, and we were going to school in Tampa, but ultimately you ended up doing your residency in New York City, right? And so you really lived in the city there for several years. So you're back here in Florida now. So you probably are having some moments of reflection around, folks that, that are still in the city. And are you connected with some of those?
Yeah. So actually, I still read for one of the hospitals that's most impacted in Brooklyn. You'll see them on the news a lot. I've sent them some supplies that I was able to get. I told them, hey, listen, if I got to come back, I'll come back. I'll fly in if necessary to give them body. Not that I would be the best frontline agent, but I'm better than nobody else who has no training whatsoever. But it hasn't really got that, which is I'm happy for that, and I'm sure they're also happy that they don't need to tap into a resource like me that probably is better serving them elsewhere. So I've been grateful to see the progress that they're making. The social distancing is clearly working. As far as the health concern obviously the economics of this is very different, and how that plays into this conversation is very different. But from a health standpoint, it seems to be working, and hopefully we can stay vigilant and eventually turn this ship around. Yeah, I think we're going to definitely going to get into the economics of this, especially when it comes to how to sustain and make income for folks and their family. Eric, the lighting was good before, but I think the sun's gone down a little bit. So let me see if I can throw it on, see if it gets a little better. Pop a light on. How's that? Too bright? Yeah, that's gonna be better. Yeah, that's better. I get you in full lit. Yeah, it's like serious, like HD. I can turn the backlights on. Maybe I get to the kitchen lights. Do what you want. You want to experiment? That's fine. Try one more thing. Yeah, it's funny because a little more. Okay, that's probably good. Here's the thing. What people don't realize is we shoot. That's perfect, actually. We shoot this thing. What's ironic, we start shooting right before sunset, like an hour. Right. And so the lighting when we start is completely different than the lighting midway, and then it changes. Oh yeah. I had last week I had Cole Robinson. She did her whole interview show from her patio on the back patio, which started out amazing. Like it was this beautiful sun drenched patio pool. It was like so serene. And then around halfway through the interview, man, she got darker and darker and darker. And then her husband had to go get like a lamp and like shine it in her face. Yeah. So this is the challenge of doing a live show right around sunset. It is what it is. Right? So I'll let you know as the lighting goes. Hey, so I want to come back, and the first thing I want to do is cover our sponsor, right? So our sponsor is perfect for what we do, right? So this is Executive Launch. So this is custom turnkey business packages for executives. So these are folks that have built up their career in typically large companies, large to medium-sized companies, have risen their ranks, have proven their leadership, have proven their all of their muster for being creative within organizations, rolling out products, leading people, just the best, right, in terms of that skill set. But realizing that that perhaps there's something bigger that they can do for themselves. Perhaps they have what it takes to launch their own company and make a dent, put a dent in the universe with all of that talent and all that skill that they're giving to the company. So at some point when someone gets promoted to a certain degree, they kind of have a go, no-go decision where, okay, I can still keep getting promoted upper management, right, and make more money, but ultimately there might be a happiness factor, golden handcuffs, more politics, frustration. It's not, I mean, you know this from people that are up the ranks in the hospital systems, right? It's a thankless, high stress job. And you have to make a decision around, do you want to have that corporate stress path of a lifestyle that has a lot of perhaps job security to it? Or maybe while you're still mid-career and you still have some gas in the tank as an executive, with all of your contacts, your network, and all of that experience and leadership, maybe
maybe now at some point is the time to jump out and start your own company. So
Sure.
executive launch helps companies, helps executives do that, and puts a whole team together to help them understand what a startup really is, because most people really don't understand, especially executives that come up the ranks. They don't understand the guerrilla warfare it takes to launch a company. And it looks easy. It looks easy from the outside, and it's sexy and romantic, but it's a lot harder than you expect. And you want to surround yourself with people who've been through it. And so that's what executive launch does. Okay. In fact, I've got a little, I think I've got something I'm going to throw up here. I think, yeah. Okay. Hold on. I've got a, interesting, I've got a little thing that's supposed to be on the screen, but it's, let's see if I can get it to go. Okay. All right. Okay. So, anyway, okay. So that's executive launch. All right. We're going to jump back into it. So Eric, what we're going to do, the format of the show is that I interview you a little bit on your story, and then we only go like 5-10 minutes before we turn it over to questions. Thank you, Cal, for that. Guerrilla warfare is right. Cal Tiger says, "Hi, Fong. Hi, how are you? Thank you for joining." And please go ahead and put your questions in the chat queue, because we're going to go ahead and address those. The thing about these stories, I get these amazing entrepreneurs on this show, and I get them telling their stories, and it tends to put my audience like into a trance, because they're like mesmerized by these stories, because you can't believe them, and then they kind of forget to ask their question, or they forget that it's not just about my guest co-host. It's about people out there. That's why we're doing it live. If otherwise, I would just be doing a traditional podcast, right?
Sure.
So let's put them out there. So Eric, basically the setup for this is, the reason I want this story to be relevant, I want you to talk about, how you look at business and entrepreneurship, because I think it can be really, really relevant to people today that are in jobs, how they can like start things on the side to make money, and potentially even get lucky and form a whole company that breaks away. So let's start with start us with kind of your story and your philosophies on that.
Sure. Quick run through.
Yeah.
I'd say that I'm getting some feedback. Can you feedback?
Not so much. You sound okay.
Okay. So the real story that I would say is, like, it starts in high school, where you're realizing that you want to earn money, and you're not sure how to do it, and you don't really want to go and work at McDonald's. That's probably for me. Like, that's just me. So I said, okay, what am I going to do? I decided I was going to drive people around in my car and charge them money to go to things that I wasn't going to attend. But they could just call me. And this was before cell phones, so they'd call me at my house. I'd write up a list. I'd drop them off. I knew the time to pick them up. I'd pick them up. So I would charge $5 a seat. It was kind of like Uber before Uber. And believe me, I wish I came up with Uber, but I didn't. Right? So I'm driving people back and forth, and I'm making money at parties, and that was basically my stick. I didn't drink. I was the president of Students Against Drunk Driving, so partying wasn't my thing. I figured this was an opportunity. Other people had to get there. I figured I was doing two services. One, they weren't drinking and driving. I was fulfilling my mission, because my grandfather was killed by a drunk driver. And number two, I was also making money. And then I was taking that money and parlaying it into other things that I could, buy and sell and flip, and buy and sell and flip, because I didn't really want to go and, like I said, work the 9 to 5. Then I get into college, and I sort of leveraged my skill set in bowling. I was a good bowler. I didn't really want to bowl for a college. I got a lot of offers to bowl in college, but it didn't really appeal to me. So I started in college. I'm like, all right, well, what can I do? I'm bowling all the time. Next thing I know, I'm bowling for teams that participate in like money sport, money on the weekends and tournaments. I'm making some money with that. Obviously, we talked about the video game aspect. I'm playing games a lot, right? College kids, lots of free time. So I'm bowling, I'm playing games, I'm going to school minimally, truthfully. I'm just going just to get by and hanging out with my friends. So again, not a big partier at college. My friends are going out. I'm saying to myself, I could stay home, play the games. I'm accruing all these items in the games. I'm like, what am I going to do with all these items? There's no other market.
What do you mean by items? What kind of items are you talking about?
Like, let's pretend everybody here's like played Zelda, right? A shield, right? So a shield in the game. Okay, so the shield in the game, I have 10 of them. I can only use one, even if I don't, maybe not even use one. So I say, okay, I can sell it for more in-game stuff, or why not just sell it to somebody else for real life money? Now, there's problems with that arise, but that was just my thought process. I have a whole bunch of these things. What should I do with them? And so that kind of just keeps on going and going and going until one of my friends starts an online company that I completely missed the boat on, right? So people miss stories all the time. I missed the boat. www.mmorpgwarehouse.com. I mean, this guy ends up selling virtual goods online, millions and millions of dollars a year, right? You can go online right now. You can Google any type of video game, any type of item. It's available. An account will be available. Items will be available.
You could have been on the ground floor of that. That was your friend? Is that what I've heard?
Oh, yeah, complete miss. I mean, millions of dollars missed. Me and the guys I started accounting with. I mean, we were some of the top sellers on eBay when eBay first started. We're talking top 10 people on eBay selling that much product, virtual product, all day, every day, just a team of us. And then, like I said, collecting checks from Western Union and then putting that money out there. Eventually, PayPal came around, and that's how we use our distributing our wealth, was through PayPal. So that was kind of like one of my first real side hustles. And then in college, I ended up getting my first watch, which begins like my next avenue and adventure of what will be hopefully my greatest side hustle. If you will.
Did you always love watches? Like was this something you just couldn't afford the ones you wanted in high school?
Yeah.
So you were just like a fan of watches?
Yeah, fan, exactly. If you're a fan, you've seen other people wearing them, you're like, man, that's kind of cool. I love the fact that they're obsolete in some way, right? I mean, you want accurate time, pick up your phone. You're going to get a great sense of the time by picking up your phone. So instead of doing something like that, you say, okay, well, what can I have that's really a men's line of jewelry? You'll see, I don't wear a chain. I don't even really wear anything at the house because when I type, it annoys me. My OCD just like clicking on the keyboard.
Yeah.
So I don't really wear anything. So the one thing I actually wear is a watch generally when I go out. It's a watch.
Right. So you bought your first watch in college. What was it?
I bought well, to be fair, my first watch was given to me in college. After I graduated from college, as I was going to medical school, my parents got me a Datejust, a Rolex Datejust.
Okay.
Yeah, stainless steel, Roman numerals, classic, stainless on stainless on stainless. It went with everything. It worked for everything. It was just that quintessential. You could wear it all the time. At the time, I was wearing a lot of suits, going to medical school and interviews and stuff like that. So I was wearing it all the time.
And obviously, you still have it.
No, actually, see, that's the thing. I'm not really a possessions guy. I don't have emotional attachments to things, which also helps in the entrepreneur game, I think.
Yeah.
You have to put some of that aside, right? The reason why people have an emotional attachment to a job is because you begin to own it and live it and breathe it, and then that's your job. I don't do that, right? I look at a job as like, thank you, I'm making my money in this current job. This is the current opportunity I'm in. What other opportunities are always available? I'm always looking.
Got it. So how many luxury watches have you think you've sold since you started? And then what is the average ticket price on those on average?
I'm going to say probably a few hundred, and I'm going to say 5,000 to 10,000. Depends on,
right.
It's hard to say because sometimes you'll say like, oh, there's a crazy one. So that might drive the average up, but I would say most people who are purchasing a watch at this point in that luxury piece is going to be anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000. I actually tell people don't buy your first watch over the $10,000 price point unless you've just got a tremendous amount of wealth and you're looking for either a toy or an investment vehicle that's alternative to buying stock or something else.
So why do you think people bought from you? My guess is did you get your knowledge up to a point where you could, they could source these things anywhere, but was it the knowledge or your ability to describe the attributes of this thing and get them excited about it?
I think, that's a part of it. I don't know if it's excitement. I'm not a hype guy, really. I'm not. I would say, if anything, I'm more of a straight shooter. I'm sure you know that from me. I don't pull punches. I'll tell you exactly how I feel to a fault, and I would say many times that's probably derailed as many good opportunities as it's kind of, launched me to. Yeah. But what I'll tell people is just the honest truth. It's okay, hey, you've got 5,500. Can you flex to 7 to get the watch you really want? Or should we back off and go to 3,500 or 4,000 because the 5,500 space for you is a dead space? And sometimes people don't want to hear that, right? And you'll lose a person. But I would say most people want the truth. They want to know your opinion. That's why they came to you. And so I'll offer my opinion. I'll tell you why I think something's good, bad, or indifferent. I'll also tell you, if you buy a watch, I'll say this watch, when you resell it, won't be worth this. it'll probably be worth less. Or I'll tell you, hold this for the rest of your life and your children will experience more wealth than you currently have. It's a better investment vehicle than, you know, buying them a junk bond or putting their money in a CD.
Yeah, got it. So basically, you straight talk these folks in terms of why they should spend what they're spending or why they shouldn't spend what they should spend. Just a trusted advisor, if you will.
Yeah, that's it. Trusted advisor.
But also, like, do you break down the difference in quality? Surely you get into the difference in quality in these products. You have to be an expert at these products.
You go deep. It's like, you know, for instance, like the first question I always ask somebody, when you wear the watch, what is it why are you getting it? Are you getting it to wear it? Is this like I'm going to wear this every day, and we call it like a daily wear, or almost like a beater, right? A daily driver, some people say, just like cars. Yeah. Are you getting this because it's special occasions? This thing's going to be in a safe 95% of the time. It's not going to be on your wrist, and you're going to wear it to your 6 occasions a year. Okay, that's different. That type of money. That's a different type of watch, different type of money. Everything's different with that, right? Yeah. But when you're talking about a daily driver, I also have to know what you do. Are you a daily driver who's going to beat this thing up? Are you working a desk job where you're going to keep on scratching across a desk? Are you working outside? Are you a Marine? I've literally sold watches to people that are in all sorts of jobs, walks of life, and you're trying to put them into the thing that makes literally the most sense in all those pieces. Is it a dress watch? Is it a sport watch? Is it a mix? Can you wear it with shorts? Do you go to the beach with it?
Yeah. So here's the thing. So the reason I think this is important, I'm drilling into it, is because, you know, you're talking about a price point that's you know, this is something that people you can make significant side income on something like this, and you get to do something that you're passionate about. There's ready-made customers out there if you know how to find them. You've got a price point that is very rewarding. The margin for you is clearly going to be significant, and you get to make people happy, right? Yep. And you just all these good things, right? In addition to your day job that you've had. And by the way, you went through years of med school and residency. So maybe talk about that for a minute. Did any of this kind of side hustle stuff help you through residency and all of that by way of income?
Truthfully, no.
Yeah.
No. If anything, I'll say that my high school one got me a car. Okay, I bought my first car with it. So I bought a brand new Mustang. I was like, oh, I bought a brand new Mustang. So literally driving people around in a Corsica got me a Mustang. That's what I tell people. And then bowling, video games, and everything in college paid for my somewhat extravagant lifestyle when I did go out or when I did do other things. Like I would buy. I remember
you liked fancy dinners. I do remember that.
Right,
you did like dinners, yeah. You weren't a big drinker or partier, but you liked.
Exactly. I'll do a big dinner. I'll go out to a big place. I'll spend the money. I think it's worth it. That's, you know, luxuries in New York City was great for that. Tampa, same thing. But I would spend on my friends. I'd buy computers. I love tech. I love to dig into the idea of tech. So most of that was funded through that. Medical school, no, you're just too locked in. There's not enough time. I mean, I was still playing video games, still doing some watch stuff, but let's face it, most of it was still studying and doing what had to be done. Residency starts to turn the corner. Actually, that's when the watch game really started to turn on.
Because you were meeting doctors that had the money to buy these things, you know, the interest in the money to do this, right? So right. You were in a killing field, so to speak.
Yeah, you know what the funny part is, it's like you think that's where the money and the killing field is, but they introduce you to the people that actually have the real money. And have the real
yes, they introduce you to the people, right?
Yeah, those are the people that you would never expect it. No sweatpants, watch.
See, there's a big lesson to be learned here, people. Like, and I always talk about this in sales, and a lot of people get this. Cal, Tiger get this, and all of my my seasoned guys. But it's not. People forget. It's not who you know; it's who they know. Right. And this is so true in all things in business. It's I just asked for it today in a referral. Like I got someone passed on with something I was working on, and instead of just saying, because that happens, I said, is there anyone you could think to refer me to, right? So any good salesperson knows this is the golden rule of sales, right? Is to whether they're passing or not, the idea, if you get somebody excited, like imagine that doc, you get somebody excited about watches. Once they're convinced that you're an expert at watches and you're excited about watches and you have all this thing, the immediately thing they know immediately that they're not a buyer, but they immediately start thinking about their friends.
That's right.
Go, you know who I need to introduce you to, right?
That's how it all happens. That's literally, it's all friends of friends, word of mouth of friends. It's literally that. That's how it happens. It's you sold to one person, they really like the experience. That person tells two more of their friends. They like the experience. They get two more of their friends. And like you said, you put yourself in a situation where people are then talking about you in that regard. And like you said, it's a trusted advisor role. It's somebody you don't think you're going to really screw them over. It's the truth. But you're also making some money. Yep, power networking. I agree.
That's right. The power of networking is great, but this idea of referrals, like this has been true, and this is true in so many things. If you show knowledge and passion about something, people pick up on that energy, and you should never look at people. You should never look at people as your buyer, right? You should almost look at them as somebody that you're just trying to demonstrate your enthusiasm and your knowledge, and they will find you the buyer, right?
They do. They do.
This is so true.
And they're going to become a buyer.
Yeah, I've seen this. I see this all over the place, and it really should be it's a big lesson that people don't even in networking. I find just something as simple as networking. People go out networking or whatever. They're thinking about how can I get the car to the person and sell this person. No, all you want to do is be the person who's really enthusiastic, passionate about something, and clearly knowledgeable about something. Just be that person. You're done. You're done. Nothing more. That's your job of the evening, of the whole event. Just be that person and watch what happens. They will gravitate to you. They will connect you with people. They will try to get you to connect. It's incredible. It has nothing to do with the first people that you're interacting with. It's such an obvious thing, but in a way, but it's just never really understood.
Yeah, my goal wasn't to sell watches. That honestly was never my goal. My goal was to meet other people who like watches, and then through that, you just demonstrated the fact that you acknowledged that you were a nice person, that you could meet other people in that space, and it gets to networking, but it also gets back to, like you said, it's just demonstrating you care about something, you have passion for something, people latch onto it, they buy into your story, they want to be a part of it, and then they start asking you questions that you've never even really thought about, which is, hey, could you get me this watch? And you're going, I guess I could, but that's not really what I do, but I guess it's what I do now.
Right, yeah. I just hope that sinks in with so many of our viewers and listeners. Like it's a couple old dogs here talking about how people don't really understand networking. And this is really, really what it is. And this is really how it works. And this, by the way, doesn't just work in small ticket items. This works in big ticket items. This works in almost every business of all types. I could just go down the list. I mean, cutting grass. I'm just going to just off the top of my head, I'm looking out my window at my lawn, right? Like if I bump into somebody that is clearly has a crew and really clean cut and really you can see that they're professional and they're really trying to create a business, and I bump into them somewhere at some store, what God knows, there's some birthday party, whatever, and I'm impressed by them and they have a lawn care business. Guess what? I'm not changing my lawn person.
Right.
Okay. So you would think right there that they're wasting their time with me. Right there, you think they're wasting their time with me, right? But just the opposite. Like they're impressing me to the point where now I'm thinking in my mind as they're talking, and I think, like, who do I know that needs a good lawn person? Right. People just don't understand that concept. You know, they want to give up, or they think that it's the value of this person.
You can make that sale. You can make the next sale.
Right, and it's about who can I refer you to, like I'm gonna. So anyway, I know it's such a powerful thing. Okay, so this is this is kind of the side hustle thing. So what I want to transition to, Eric, is okay. So let's take a step back for a minute. You know, this podcast is really about trying to get a message out to people right now that are, you know, in jobs or losing jobs, whether they've lost it or they're fearing they may lose it, or maybe they're just like, hey, you know what? This is a wake up call for me. I should work on my side business or my full exit, right? Everybody's got a different spectrum of what they want, right?
Yeah.
Eric, you've never been like you've never been a person that was like just dying to quit and start and just get out there. You're a guy that always loved the idea of having a great paying job that allows you, that is structured in such a way that allows you to go pursue all your interests and hobbies, right? Yeah. And make money with some of them and not others. But maybe we know that about you. You know, comment on that a little bit about yourself, but then also maybe talk about, you know, the bigger landscape for people out there.
Yeah, how you get there, maybe, right? Like, yeah. So for me, you could easily, and a lot of my colleagues do, they just fall back and like, okay, we make a good salary in radiology, right? That's why I'm a radiologist. So I work from home, and that's nice. I don't commute, so I save time on commuting. I save pretty much time on anything you can think of. I turn the machine off, so my time is my time, which was a huge piece for me to get to where I am now, right? I was able to then take a lot of the extraneous, which is that commute, that gives me an hour a day. Not taking any call, it gives me my weekends back, my nights back. All that time then can be parlayed into other things that I have passion for, which could theoretically be one of two things. One, just purely a hobby. I don't necessarily anymore make money on video games. Could I? Sure, but I don't, right? So I could either do things that I enjoy, or I could do things that I enjoy that I can also make money at. Watches, other ventures that I have. With that whole theory, you say to yourself, okay, I have a job, do I quit? And I think this is what I've listened to some of the other podcasts, and what the theme, and one of the things I disagreed with was, you got to be your own boss, and you've got to do this, and you got to do that, and that's the only way you'll ever get wealth. I think that's what you talked about probably 3 podcasts ago. And I kind of disagree, right? Because for me, I generate far more wealth at my job where I'm technically not the boss. And that's okay, because I'm the boss in other domains, and I'm fine with that. But at the same time, I said to myself, okay, in my own domain, it's going to take far too long just to be the boss, but I still like what I do. So I started my own teleradiology company recently with a friend of mine, and I started my own consulting company with myself. And then I started doing things for myself as a contractor. So I've taken my skill set, even though I'm not the boss in my main job, but now I'm parlaying that into potentially being the boss in my main job. So just because you're in a current role doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the boss today.
Yeah.
But maybe you should be planning to be the boss for the future, but it doesn't mean you have to give up what you currently have.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of ways to slice that, right? So for one thing, we know that wealth creation really big. There's a spectrum of wealth, right? There's great income. Mm-hmm. There's moderate wealth, which means you can put a few $1 million in the bank, separate. And then there's really great wealth that's maybe $10 million or more in the bank, and from there, right? But for sure, if you want to be on that upper end of the spectrum of wealth, you better own a company. Which, by the way, case in point, you've done, and you've created 2 or 3. You've got 2 apps, you've got a company, you've got 3 or 4 things. So aside from side hustle, you've created 2 or 3 or 4 opportunities to own something that could create large wealth down the line. Something that you could either sell, or something that blows up and becomes big somehow, or something that becomes valuable with a patent or something that you can sell.
I guess it's like, again, I've been to a lot of things locally. I'm assuming a lot of people here are local. You go to a Wave or a Synapse event, or this event or that event, and you start to listen and you listen. And I think sometimes, and this is where I'm different, a lot of people are chasing the big one. They were chasing the whale. I'm usually not. The truth, I'm usually not chasing the whale. Like, I don't really see my radiology company ever being sold to be a whale. I would love to have autonomy with my peers, and I mean that, like, autonomy with my peers. This is weird. Autonomy with your peers. Yeah, autonomy with my peers. I want peers to be autonomous, working in the same environment. That doesn't really exist in medicine a lot, right? There's somebody who runs a group, a lot of people under them, and that's just the way that it works. Medicine is usually behind business by quite a good distance. Okay, so we're very traditional modeled in medicine. A lot of practices are. So I would love to see something that's more revolutionary, that's changing. I would prefer that than more wealth. And I think it gets to your point where there's different levels of wealth and what type of wealth you're trying to accrue. I'm trying to accrue more personal freedom wealth, social wealth than physical wealth, because I don't have many things. As you say, I wear t-shirts. I literally wear t-shirts and shorts every day. I'm not that fancy. I have some nice clothes I can go out with, but the reality is I would rather have a enjoyable amount of wealth and more autonomy and spread that to other people, because I think too many people get caught up in the headaches associated with how many dollars they're bringing in. And some of my friends get caught up in that. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. You make a good living. I think other people would trade in places with you. And the truth is, I think a lot of people would, but they're always chasing the next. And if you're always chasing the next, that's a problem.
And they're chasing something big. So you're striking that balance of having that baseline income so that you can pursue these other things.
Correct.
And frankly, too, what you're going for, because we know this, when entrepreneurs that take the big leap, they're in for typically a lot of pain and struggle to pull through on the other side. It's pretty tough, right? But the risk reward is big, right? So that all the people I know that have sold their companies for a few $100 million, and I know a few of those, they had to make that big and it's kind of what's inside of you that makes a difference, right? In terms of who you are and what your risk tolerance is and what your vision. And by the way, too, I'm going to say this, what you want today, because to kind of swing for the fences, you kind of have to give up your youth in a way for something, bigger down the line. So many trade-offs here, right?
I mean, I traded that off already, right? And I think that's why it's a little harder to trade off. You trade off your 20s trip, your 30s to go to medical school and to do residency, and you're in the hospital all the time, and your friends are doing X, Y, and Z, and you're not doing that. So that trade-off has already happened. And I don't know if it gives you a better world perspective. I just think it gives you a different world perspective. It gives you a different life perspective because you've already traded those things. So to sound like to trade them again is even worse. And obviously I have a lower risk tolerance than I would call them the hardcore entrepreneurs who are literally drop it all, go out, chase it. People like you yourself, I mean, you'll go for it. I mean, I don't know that I have that in me, but that's okay because everybody can be different. And I'm sure some people listening to this are not sure they want to drop everything to become that entrepreneur, right? But they maybe want to have a side hustle that takes them from this tax bracket to this tax bracket and potentially exit all tax brackets, right? And to say, okay, how do you do that with a limited amount of time? Well, you do that by trying to find ways like I've described, which is my job used to be very call heavy, time heavy, commute heavy. I've figured out ways to take some of those little pieces out, little bites then is one big bite. The one big bite gives me free time to do the other things I've pretty much done.
And I think that's beautiful. By the way, sorry I was distracted. The Facebook Live, I was trying to, so we've been running this on Facebook Live for weeks, but I've never been able to look at my comments over there while I'm watching this. And so every week I'm like, I'm going to try to, maybe I can reply to Facebook Live comments. I got a couple. Oh, it's Vikas. A shout out to Just Pretend. Vikas. So Vikas, throw a question in here for Eric. Vikas is one of our Wave founder CEOs who's doing quite well, by the way. It's a regulatory compliance platform in the cloud for mid-sized to large companies to track all of their compliance requirements. And he's one of those founders startups that are actually doing quite well right now. There's a lot of he's gaining a lot of investor attention even in this tough time, and he's also gaining a lot of customer attention. So, but no, Eric, that's what I love about having you on because you're that example of an entrepreneur that is building, you put this baseline in, which you're protecting, and you're doing a great job with it, and you're making six figures just doing this thing, and then you're just building your little empire on the side, right?
Yeah,
and by the way, one of them might pop, but you're not going to put too many chips. You're like a professional gambler in the casino, right?
That's what this is.
Yeah,
this is calculated gambling risk.
You're like a professional gambler that walks in that's already good. He or she's already got plenty of money. I'm not in here trying to
be tight anymore.
Yeah,
you're not tight, right? You're not squeezing. Sometimes I'll see entrepreneurs who they're forcing, right? They're forcing their product or they're forcing their idea because it was a great idea 3 years ago when they started. Today, not a great idea, but they feel so pot committed that doesn't matter what I bet, they're betting more. They want it more.
Yeah, because they're kind of they've basically gotten themselves in such a situation where they have to gamble to survive.
That's right.
Basically, that's what that becomes like,
and
right?
That's the difference, I would say. The difference between a lot of what I do is, and it helps my personality, is I'll shoot you down. I'll say bad idea, and unfortunately, people generally don't want to hear that. But the truth is, especially if it's in the spaces I know, I've seen the winners, I've seen the losers.
Right. So I think that's a great analogy. You come in and you're basically that professional gambler that's already whole, right?
Playing with house money.
Right, and playing with house money and placing bets around. And if something starts to grab, you're going to double up on that, and you're going to let that ride. But at no point do you jeopardize the mothership.
Correct.
And by the way, if something does blow up and pop, you'd be the first. And I know you. If it really one of your apps, one of your businesses, and you may disagree with me right now on the surface, but I know you.
No.
You would say, you know what? I'm ready to go.
Not being a radiologist.
Go pursue this, right? Yeah.
I'm with you. I mean, let's face it too. But that brings us full circle to the idea that this is about entrepreneurship, right? I wouldn't be throwing out streams and hoping they turn into a river, hoping they turn into the mighty Mississippi, if I didn't believe eventually in one of my ideas or someone else's idea that I'm investing in. If otherwise, I'd put money in a 401k and just let it ride, right? Like otherwise, I would do something like that, or I would go other traditional means of investment. I don't do these small angel type pieces or my betting on myself because I think that they're not going to work. I think they will eventually, hopefully, financially completely liberate me. Hopefully, my family too, and hopefully some of my friends come along with me. But yeah, I'm with you. That's the entrepreneurial spirit that I 100% buy into.
Right. So this is the point you're making right now, is that you're not doing this just for fun and play. No. You actually are placing bets, hoping something hits.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, that's really important with the
everything I've done with the watch space. I've transitioned from selling watches myself to having now dealer apps, to having now more viable outward customer-facing apps, which we've delayed because of COVID. That's just everybody's facing it, whether it be in my healthcare space, I'm facing it. My own company that with radiology, my consulting is completely cut off. My side hustle with that went from great to a realistic full-time income to now being almost nothing. My watch business went from great luxury item to almost nothing, but I've been insulated because I think the people that are prepared for this say to themselves, all right, buckle up, think, right, plan for the future. Think about, is there anything in this current marketplace that you could excel at? If the answer is no, that's fine. Everyone doesn't have something in this marketplace to excel at. Let's also be realistic about that. I'm in the medical space. I don't have anything to contribute that's going to make me any real money. So if I'm not doing it, there's not a lot of people doing it, right?
Right.
And then start thinking about what the future of a growth market looks like. What's currently going out of business? Think to yourself, are they going out of business because they were a poorly run business? Was it a bad idea? And if it's a poorly run business, maybe you can step into that business, right? Maybe you could run a business better that was just poorly managed that's going out of business. Because I'm seeing a lot of people who are asking, it's bad times, who are going out of business during this and saying, well, woe is me. I'm saying to myself, well, listen, we've only been down and out for a month or two.
Yeah.
The reality is a lot of these small businesses, if they're very well organized, could be alive still.
Let's use this. I like to just kind of sometimes brainstorm examples. Like let's look at a hair salon, right? Like for example. Right, there's a great example. Hair salons, most of them are locked into this idea that you come in there to get the haircut, and frankly, they all should have already been pivoting to trying to come cut hair at my house, for example. It sounds ridiculous, right? But I'm not reading about it. Where I get my haircut has not approached me. Meanwhile, we're all getting bad haircuts from our family members.
Right.
Right. This is what it's there. And but I'm just an example off the top of my head. Like there's an example where I wouldn't say poorly run. I would just say a business that isn't like paying attention and
they're not paying attention. They're not adapting. But I mean, I still think poorly. I'll be honest. I'll go back to it. I'm blunt. I still think poorly run because I'll tell you right now, the person who cuts my hair, I actually contacted, I reached out, all the services that I have. I still said, hey, listen, I'm going to pay you in the downtime so that I know that eventually down the road, listen, we'll either catch it back up, you'll give me a discount later, or listen, it's a wash, it's fine. So I'm not kidding. I contacted my hair cutter who comes to my house and cuts my hair. Why? Because I don't like to drive there and waste time. Everything efficiency. I don't drive anywhere to waste time. I don't own a car in Florida for 3 years. Okay, no car, 3 years in Florida, none, zero.
Right.
So think about that. I have everybody come to the house to do all the services because it saves me time. Time is money. Time is far more valuable than money. Far more valuable. So she tells me, texts me back, and she says to me, nah, I'm good, but thanks. So that's a person, okay, who you wouldn't expect to turn down free money, but the reality is she did. 2 times, because it's been about a month, right, a little bit over. I get my haircut every 2 weeks. And she said, nah, I'm good. And that's a person who's got a planned business. They know when the economic downtime happened, they were prepared for it, because good times are not always going to be rolling. We were in a huge upswing, right? Yeah. How many of those businesses would go out of business if we were in a 3-month downturn that's similar to a 1-month outage? Well, if they're the same people, guess what? I can't really feel all that bad. Now, I'm not saying everybody. There's circumstances. Yeah. But good businesses can still prepare for some of this.
Right, yeah. And by the way, your lighting is starting to dip, so let's pull it up.
Let me get something behind me.
Yeah. No, you're good. Where'd you go? You can't. Eric, we're live. You can't. You're just supposed to. You had the dimmer. Yeah.
The kitchen lighting will give me enough.
You had lighting. Oh, that's better. Okay, that's better. Yeah.
I had to get the kitchen lights.
Okay. All right. So there you go. That's an example of, to your point, businesses out there. Some are finding ways to thrive, and some are just kind of frozen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So back to advice for folks out there. Okay, let's say you weren't fortunate enough to have gone through medical school, and you're radiologist, which is a very obviously on the scale of things a secure job by way of things. If you were out there in the private sector, selling insurance or or working in marketing, or God knows, just the regular corporate job, working for a mid-sized, let's call it a mid-sized company. What you've got friends like this, you've got friends in your life, right? Like, so and you're never short on advice and opinions. Like, what would you tell your friends right now?
I think the first thing is, what do you want to like? What do you want to know? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? That's number one, right? If the answer is no, then the conversation's over. But if the answer is yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur, the next thing is, what do you know? And what do you know better than most people? It doesn't be everybody, but most people. And I think that starts to then make you look inward and say, what is it that I really have that drive, that passion for, that I'll wake up for the extra 1 hour or do the 1 extra hour a day, which I'm going to ask of you, which anyone's going to ask of you at least, right? If it's a side hustle. Now, this is the full-time business we're talking about here, because we just described that. But if this is a side hustle, what are you going to do for an hour a day for probably a few months at least to try to at least think about, lay the groundwork for potentially putting dollars from your pocket, whether it be you're siphoning off 5% of your life's, your life kind of money, 10% of your life money, because anybody can siphon off. There's no question. I mean, there's almost nobody who's in that particular situation who's really thinking about entrepreneurship who doesn't have at least some disposable income. And the truth is, you don't need almost any to do some of these things. I didn't own any of the watches that I sold. Right. So there was no dollars associated with that. That was just a skill of networking. So go out and go to a hobby or activist group in the thing that you like, that you want to spend that 1 hour doing, and just meet people. Next thing you know, you might be selling that particular product to other people that are not in that circle, or potentially in that circle, and you don't need any inventory. So it's a $0 investment, right? It's a time and true passion investment that you put in. And that could potentially get you money. Or two, siphon money and do things like I've also done. I bought watches at a low price, resold them at a higher price, right? That's a completely different strategy. One has dollars associated on the front end and dollars on the back end, which might be better margins, right? Because you're not just straight middlemaning, but they're the same exact business. So the first thing really drives from, what's your passion? What are you better at than most people? How much time are you going to spend?
Yeah, and some of it can be services, right? Like you can, even if you're not like a product, if you don't have a product mentality, you can, if you're like a great writer or copywriter or marketing, or if you are good with development or social media, there's a lot of ways to like make side money helping folks with those kinds of things, right? Having hard skills, and I mean, there's a difference between having an interest and a passion and having hard skills. Hard skills, obviously, we don't have to tell people, like they probably already know that. The trick to that is getting, let's talk about that into the spectrum for a minute. So the trick to that is getting customers, right, and finding them. And I had a really great recommendation told to me yesterday, or was it today, about people that are in jobs that just don't have the network or don't know where they might get. Let's say you're a great writer, a great copywriter, right, and you can go out on these sites like Upwork and Freelancer. Like I know these sites pretty well because I've hired people off of these sites. And there's a million copywriters and a million of everybody out there, right? There's no way to stand out. And this friend was telling me yesterday, he said, one of the cool things that you can do if you want to dig your well before you're thirsty and really get started, is to find company or find someone or a company that you admire, that you know of, and ask if you can like volunteer some time. Sure. Because basically be a grown-up intern, right? Because they're going to be super like excited to have you. Right. They're going to give you the interesting work to do that you're going to learn from and be able to like build your skill set around. And three, they're going to want to help you and connect you to people like we talked about earlier. Like this guy, you got to like, I want to connect this person. I want to help this person because they came and helped us for free, right?
Yeah, I was a candy striper before I went to medical school. Before I got my residency, I was going after hours on other rotations. When I was on surgery, guess where I was going? Radiology afterwards. when I could cut out and skip a day in surgery. Guess what? About radiology, I didn't take the day off.
Yeah.
Right? I think if there's a story of perseverance, that's my story. I was told no the whole way up. I mean, my grades were not very good. God's honest truth. And I can't say how many people told me, you won't go to this, you won't become this, you won't do this. And I'm like, that's fine. Kind of learn to live and love no. If you can learn to love and live no, oh man, you're going to be a winner. You're going to be a winner because you just almost want to hear it. Like, I'm like, what'd you say? Just a little bit louder? Did you say no? I mean, I'm the guy at the other side of the coin. When I make it a yes, that I'm going to send you a letter about when you told me no. I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
I'm a playing guy to be, but that's the type of guy I am. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear did you say no? Oh, okay.
Right. Hey, real quick, there are definitely those types of people, right? And you're definitely hardcore in that camp of there's certain people that the biggest gift you can ever give them is tell them they can't do something. Oh my God, it triggers certain people that way, right? And then the other side of the camp is like, I'm probably on the other side of the camp where if you believe in me and think that I can do something, then that actually like boosts me and I can actually conquer and I think a good coach or a good parent or anybody is able to figure out what's the trigger on a certain person, right? Are you triggered by that, or are you triggered
Know yourself.
Yeah.
That's it. Know yourself. And I think the common thread that we have is we both know what motivates, what drives us. Yeah. And I think that if you're on the call or you're listening and you don't know which camp you fall in, that's another question you have to answer is, which camp are you in? Do you love when people challenge you and they say to you, you can't do something and you really want to do it? Well, that's my camp. But if you're on the camp that you want people to kind of buy into and see what the creative spirit that you have. I mean, clearly I'm buying into what you've done, right? I've come and spoken to class. I'm now doing this because I see how hard it is that you work. I mean, we work on projects together. You've introduced me to people in the local network, other things that we've done. I mean, we have a great working relationship and we've had ups and down times, right? We've had goods and the bads, but that comes from our conflicting personalities that we're both not willing to cater to the other one just for the sake of doing it.
Right. Exactly.
Right? I mean,
that's right. You got two.
I'm not going to tell you one thing. You're not going to tell me another.
Two strong personalities. So back to the advice for people. So if you said, first of all, do you want to be an entrepreneur or are you an entrepreneur? But I would say, let me challenge that for a minute.
Sure.
What if someone if you lose your job right now, I don't know that there's another job to pick up, and unemployment is not kind of the answer. So I would say almost in this case, unlike even in most other recessions, Eric, there were still kind of jobs out there and you could kind of navigate through it. But if this thing stays as bad as it is, and let's just assume that it stays tough for a while, it's not like you can do that at like past recessions. So
totally agree.
Yeah. So
here's my argument for that. Here's my rebuttal. My rebuttal is your opportunity cost is now zero. Mm-hmm. You've got nothing else, right? Like for me, the opportunity cost always exists. If it's detracting from something that I can do for X amount of dollars per hour, which is radiology, why would I do this other thing? It's because like you said, if I create this little stream that potentially has a long-term outcome, well, then that 1 hour per kind of time and my invested time is okay. But if right now, if I'm doing nothing, if I have no radiology, $0 income, which I have a lot of that $0 income coming in, do you think right now, I'm asking you, do you think right now that I'm thinking about just like sitting on my hands and wondering, when that money's going to come back, or do you think I'm thinking about the next 10 things?
Yeah, absolutely. You're working on the next
10 things. And I think that a person who's sitting there currently who has nothing right now and is collecting either a check of unemployment or struggling, the first thing you got to ask yourself is, how long do you think you're struggling for? You have to be realistic about it. Is it you're not going to be employed for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? Do you need to scale back your life? Do you need to sell your house? I mean, I think about something like, do I need to sell my house? Potentially take my earnings, scale back to an apartment, and just make this thing happen? Because I'm realistic about this. Now, the answer to me, thank God, is no. But if that was the case, I'll tell you right now, for sale sign would go out in front of my house. I'd be dancing around, putting up as much stuff to get this thing sold and make as much money as I possibly could, bank it, figure out how much I needed over the 1, 2, 3 years I think I'd be unemployed, and then figuring out the next thing.
That's right.
Never sit on your hands.
That's right. That's right. I love that. The idea that don't fall into don't fall into kind of a, lack of a better word, victim. Like you've got to get on the offensive.
That's it.
Yeah, right.
There's not many people in this time. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple, a handful. You hear the story. Oh, this guy made so much money. Let's get realistic, right? The guys and girls out there, most people are struggling. Most people right now are struggling. So I think the real winners will be the ones who are looking at this and saying adversity is building opportunity. Opportunities, what are those opportunities for me? How do I get to those opportunities? And how do I start moving my chips in that direction?
Yeah.
If I don't move my chips in that direction early, somebody else like me is like chips, chips, chips.
Right. So right now is the time to make moves and place chips right now. So by the way, it's ironic because that's how I met you, right? Because that's, as mentioned earlier, through the previous recession, the industry that I was in was big 6-figure, even 7-figure enterprise software sales, and it had gone to like zero. Right. So I was in my late 20s, and I said, I kind of knew I wanted to get my MBA at some point, and I chose that downturn to go ahead and just like I did. I sold my house, Eric. I sold my house. And actually moved in with my in-laws for many months, several months, not quite a year, I don't think, while I retooled, regrouped, and went back to school to get the MBA and reset my whole life and career. By the way, nobody forced me to do that. Nobody told me this. Like I could have gotten a job and just kept. There were jobs out there where I definitely was going to get one, but you know what I said to myself, Eric, at that time? I said, you know what, if I don't want a job, like I lost the job, the career the industry that I wanted to be in, and it was special and it was exciting. And now it looks like I just need to go get a job. And this is when I was in my late 20s. I don't ever told you the story. And it just wasn't moving the needle for me. I was like, I just felt like that it was just a bad decision. It would have been a bad strategic move. And
I got my MBA with my grades.
And then the MBA,
I needed leverage to get into medical school.
Yeah.
I'm honest. I'm not like I'm so smart. I'm not so smart. I read a lot of books. But then I learn a lot about things when I read a lot of books, just like a lot of people. And that's what I think it kind of moves to another stepping stone is how in this time, with the time that you have on your hands, how are you advancing your knowledge base in whatever topic that you really want to pursue? What is it that you're doing? Because I'll tell you right now, there's a thought leader or someone that is a current thought leader in that space. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you have to follow them, but it's good to at least get an idea of what somebody else is thinking. And it's the reason why most people are tuning into this, I think, are already doing that, right? They want to hear what other people have to say and potentially how they can take that advice and move their own needle forward.
Yeah, I love what you brought up about selling the house, and I don't necessarily want everybody to immediately do that, but I think it's a great example because I did it and used to prepare.
Sell your car.
Sell the car. Like I got a friend of mine who sold his car and he sold his Air Jordan collection to start his thing.
Most of my friends liquidated their watch collections.
And the way I look at it, Eric, too, here's the thing: sell it liquidated now or later. Like I'd rather get ahead of it and liquidate when I can.
In the downturn, right?
I can take those. Well, no, when I can take those chips and play them.
Right.
Either going back to school, training,
absolutely,
whatever it might be, retool, or put your head in the sand, let the months clip off, let your let everything go to near zero, and then you're forced to
make a big choice.
Lose that all anyway, and you can't play any of those chips, right? And I know that sounds really dark and so forth, but I think people would be wise to put their minds around some of these really tough. I like to say plan for the worst, expect the best. Meaning, like I tell people think sometimes I go to the negative too much with this stuff, but I say, hey, you need to act like 3 or 4 months ago from now or less. You don't have a job and there's no job for you. What would you do? What would you do right now? What would you do right now if you knew that was an absolute truth of what was going to happen, right? And that really, and I don't, like, for example, you're in a really great spot with what you do, but most people are not. So I'd say, hey,
I'm down 40-50%. I don't know what I'm great spot. I'm honest. So
but here's the thing:
has cost of living associated with the way that they make money, right? I mean, I'll just be honest. I spend money kind of commensurate to my lifestyle. Now, fortunately for me, I actually live a relatively pulled back lifestyle relative to the money that I take in. And I think it's the approach I would advocate for, because in these downtimes, what it leaves me with is truthfully cash in hand.
Yeah.
So when most people don't have it, when the watch market takes a dive, and I got cash in hand, you know what I'm going to buy? A whole bunch of cheap watches.
Right. So
you're going to hold them, and I'm going to resell them, and I'm going to make a profit.
Right. Exactly.
That's not even like rocket science. It's that people, like you described, have waited till they got to zero. They have nothing left else, and they've got to move the watch. Now, I feel bad for them, but at the same time, I make money.
But it gets into, and I've felt victim myself, and I think probably more so than you. Like I can get my head in the sand a little bit. I can kind of start imagining that it's easier to think about it not happening than think that it will. And sometimes you just want to have a good day, and you want to enjoy your evening, and you just want to but in the back of your mind that there's a real looming problem out there. And and so this idea of taking the chips that you have and redistributing, replaying them. I would argue that you're probably doing that now with even some of your moves that you're making, even though your 100%. Job is secure, you're probably thinking right now, like, okay, what if things are not in a good place in a few months? What will I wish? I love this. I love taking the future, bringing it to the present, right? Sure. What will I wish I would have done today? Then what will I wish I'll have done, right? And right. Today, right? And
there are rumors that my company that I currently work for, as I was kind of warming up to you before we started this whole thing, that my company that I work for, a big company, in Bloomberg today just released that potentially undergoing Chapter 11. Now, this is my main source of income. I'm hearing that this multi-billion-dollar company is potentially undergoing Chapter 11. So in my mind, I'm saying to myself, a lot of people are texting me right away, panicked. Was I panicked? Not really. I mean, yes and no, because I thought to myself, man, if they lose all those contracts, who's going to get them? Me. Like, I couldn't wait to potentially see them dissolve because I know what type of quality work that I do, and I know the relationships that I've built in my line of work, and I know where those chips would potentially fall. Now, I don't wish them ill. I don't wish that because I actually like what I do and who I work for. But I'm also saying to myself, I'm confident in what I do, just like a lot of people out there should be, especially if you're putting together a nice product, no matter what it is. I don't care if you make a cake, you wipe the floor, it does not matter. Do the best product you can. People will recognize it even if they don't tell you, and eventually one day you'll be doing that for yourself at a better level. And that's why I look at this and I say, oh yeah, I could potentially be without a job, but I know that my job will eventually come back because it's something that's needed. And most jobs are needed in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Even the luxury market, okay, that's somebody's going to want that eventually. You just have to weather the storm, and weathering the storm just means a different thing in every single category. So in my category, which is the health space, it's figuring out what my next steps would be if my company dissolves. It would be, okay, I need to then figure out how to get those contracts because I know they could be more lucrative for me than they currently are because I have a middleman who's distributing those cases to me now.
Yeah, so I would say, weathering the storm is one good way, and I think also making moves right now, whether they're major moves or they're minor moves, right? But the key is to get into motion and make moves in advance. It's just so smart. It works in the physical world. If a hurricane was coming, you'd be doing little things. You get your journal, you check this, you check that, right? You kind of be treating your life the same way as if a hurricane could come. By the way, if it doesn't come, great. You maybe were out a little bit of money. You spent a few things, but your stress level, was you artificially raised it to a point of preparation. But it doesn't go off the needle, right? Because you did the preparations of things that you needed to do. So I think that's really good advice.
Another entrepreneur told me one time that I think is very relevant in today's market, and actually probably more relevant today than normally, especially when we had the uptick cycle for so long and we've kind of been riding it. They told me, Eric, when's the last time you updated your resume? And I would tell you that it's interesting that you say that because I try to now update my resume every 3 months. And I bet there's a lot of people, maybe that are even listening to this, that haven't looked at their resume or haven't updated their resume in a bit. And what you're leaving, you really got to sit down. And I mean, when I say sit down, you got to sit down and you got to think about all the little things that you've probably neglected if you haven't updated it every 3 months, because you probably had a lot of little things in those 3-month windows that you have bypassed and are no longer on your resume, which couldn't highlight some of the little new intricacies. And you talked about big piece moves, little piece moves. These might be a lot of little piece moves that you've made over a course of a year, potentially 2 years that you've never touched your resume, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years you've been in the same job, that maybe they're adding up to something that actually speaks to the next person who sees your resume and says, hold on a second. Not only are they the blank senior administrator, blah, 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 but they've also learned French. They do this, this, and this. And it might sound silly, but those might be the features that they connect with, they identify with to say, when you get to that job interview, they start speaking to you in French and you don't know how to answer in French, or you do know how to answer in French. And that little weird connection, believe me when I tell you that, is what lands the deal. Because what actually landed me my radiology residency was not radiology. I didn't know any at the time. What landed me my radiology residency was my ability to do PowerPoint. and that came from the MBA. And ironically enough, most people don't know this, I redid most of the PowerPoint presentations in the department I was going to do my residency at before I ever got there. I offered to do all their PowerPoint presentations for them, again, to redo them, and they said nothing was wrong with them. I went on to win multiple awards in radiology presenting from my PowerPoint presentations, and actually lectured nationally and internationally on how to give an award-winning PowerPoint presentation in radiology, because everything that we do is visual. And most people just threw pictures up, lots of them all over the place, and I would say, what is going on? There was no organization. There was no structure. There was flying things everywhere.
So you won your radiology first job off of your PowerPoint skills.
There's not a question. And if I could bring my super mentor, as I call her, off right now, she would tell you 100% that it was all related to the fact that I had been willing to assist her. She wanted things to move. She wanted to talk about embryology and how things grew, and I was able to do that.
Well, this goes right back to what we said earlier about volunteering to help.
That's it.
Wow, that's huge, man. So
I believe everything we talk about. I can give you an example from my life that I use that to get the next piece. I don't just say things like, if you told me, hey, what can you relate to some of these other people that you asked me before, a sales, insurance, or this, I can tell you the truth. I've never done a job like that. I've never been in a traditional role. I've always sort of been the end user, because the first job I've really ever had was a radiologist. My side hustles were always me as the boss, but I've never reported to somebody, so I wouldn't understand how to relate to them. And I wouldn't try to offer them opinions when it relates to that, but I could offer them opinions about how I've done it and how maybe I could see them doing it.
Got it. Someone asked earlier in the Facebook Live chat flow here, if you're not all in, doesn't it show lack of interest or lack of commitment?
Like for a side hustle, you mean?
Yeah, someone's asking.
I agree with you. Yeah,
well, I think the context on this is, if you're dabbling, I think the context was a little bit back when we were talking about placing small bets around. I think that's where the context was.
But I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with that. And you know what the answer I would say is? Yes. Because when I was committing to doing the PowerPoint for the group, right, I knew that was a certain undertaking volume. I was defining the volume of my undertaking, and I think this speaks to this. If you told me that at the same time I was trying to impress them learning radiology, I knew that undertaking could not be finished in the amount of time that I had when I was within their grasp or their window of approval. So I had to custom and tailor fit, and I would recommend you do the same. Tailor fit the thing you're trying to achieve in the amount of space allocation you have. Don't try to create a watch brand in the amount of time you want to do as a maybe possible watch side hustle sale. I mean, I developed a watch patent, but I did that with a bunch of other people who are probably smarter than I am, a mechanical engineer who knew to take my idea and change it, who spent far more time on this, right? So even though the time allocation I knew was, my idea was X, I knew that I couldn't do Y, Z, Q, so I had to find and pay dollars other people to do those tasks, but I was cognizant enough that I could do that. Yeah. If the task you're trying to achieve requires 100 hours and you only have 50, I'm going to task you with finding the other 50 hours. It might be a person, it might be a service or a business that you're going to pay, but that's just understanding the time commitment, the allocation that you need to make in any side hustle.
Right. But okay, but I think the other piece of that is just if you're just placing, like back to that casino analogy again, and you're placing lots of different things. Has there ever been a case where your lack of commitment to any one of those things was so small that that's probably why I didn't succeed?
Yes.
And was that just friendly fire that you just had to take, or did you regret that?
Yeah, no. I mean, you and I have worked on my healthcare app. I mean, that's very clear. That transmogrified into a veterinary care app that we approached veterinary insurance places. And the truth is, that is a completely shelved project. Why? No time. I know that I don't have the time for it. It's money spent, lessons learned. That's the key. Yeah. The key to money spent and dead money is lesson learned. Also, I pulled the plug. Why? My time was no longer worth going in that direction. So failure, and I failed many times, many times. Didn't get into medical school the first time around. That's why I did my MBA, right? Was told you won't do this, this, and this. Jumped through all these different crazy hurdles. Didn't get this particular thing to happen. But it's persistence, but also recognizing that when you fail, you have to take away just as much as when you succeed, if not more, and probably a lot more. And that piece about the veterinary app, the medical app, taught me so much more about the watch app, which has been relatively successful and has done well. But I wouldn't have that if I didn't have that. So this failure really just springboarded this success. And that's the way it goes. I mean, you've had activity, all the things you've done.
Absolutely. The key is the bottom line is you just got to get in the game and start taking your licks. And
you're going to hear no. I mean, like it goes back to the no thing, right? Yeah. I live on that. I live on, okay, no, well, this particular one, I had to sit up and say
I avoid edit my sentences with you. Avoid ever like suggesting like no in something you can't do or we can't do something. As soon as it comes out of my mouth, I know I'm in trouble. Right. I know I'm in trouble if I ever say that. It's like I was like, man, I really did it now. He is not going to let off. Every time I talk to him now, he's going to pound me into the ground over this item.
But you also can't have that false hope. And it's hard to separate. And it's even hard for me to separate out when sometimes no is just no. And I think the way you limit that is you stay in your lane and you stay what you're passionate about. And that's what I've kind of done. I've stayed in the radiology space. You'll notice that my theme is very simple. It's I'm a bowler, I'm a video game player, I'm a watch guy, I'm a radiologist. If you ask me about almost anything else, I'll give you an opinion, but it's not an opinion that's based on trying to explain to you how you should do it or what you should do with it. I would never try to go down that route because I think too many people explore spaces outside of their realm. Even in medicine, a lot of people ask me medical questions about cardiology, and I'll say, no, I'm not a cardiologist. I just know more cardiology than they do because they're not a cardiologist and they're not in the medical space. So I can offer you a scientific backed opinion, but not a cardiologist's opinion. And if you really want the answer, ask somebody who's smarter than me in this space.
Right.
Don't ask me.
Good. I'm just polling the Facebook Live group to see if we have anybody wants to throw out a question before we get close to the wrapping up. This has been a really good conversation. I think a lot of people, I can't wait to put this up on the YouTube, honestly, because I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this.
I hope so. I mean, I think that I'm going to probably get as much from the feedback. I'll probably get as much from watching this back and seeing the other people. Yeah. That's why to do this teaches me more about myself, the way maybe even I approach these things and subconsciously would project myself outwardly rather than I do internally. And sometimes I don't even follow my own advice, right? So listening to myself will probably benefit me in some way, shape, or form because I'm just going.
Right. Yeah. You're gonna learn about yourself. Watch this. So I've got a question here from Michelle and Michelle 1L. That's Michelle 1L. She said, "What would you say?" And she's been a repeat kind of listener viewer for us. What would you say is the single most important character that has propelled you? Okay. What is the essence? Now you mentioned a couple of things. Don't being told you can't do something guy, whatever. But what's the one thing that you would boil down that has made you successful with the things that you've, by the way, the things that you've been successful with?
And you said, don't go with perseverance.
Well, you can use that, but maybe
something else.
Yeah, something you haven't touched on yet. Obviously, you're driven by being told you can't do something.
Right.
Okay, but
it's going to be on
when you're in action, doing the job that you do or whatever. Like, what do you think is another element that pulls you through to success?
It's going to be exhaustive research. It's exhaustive. The reason why I was successful in watches was my almost encyclopedic understanding of certain brands and models that differentiated me from other people who maybe knew about those particular brands and models. And let me tell you right now, there's more people out there that know far more than I do about them. But when it came to big circles, little circles, in the super little circle, I wasn't a big deal. But in the bigger circle, when most people with general knowledge walk in, I knew a lot more than they did, and I could go down a few circles, okay, if that makes sense. So your ability to have deep understanding and breadth of the knowledge and whatever it is that whatever realm you're walking in. Are you walking in the realm of facial products? Are you walking in the realm of t-shirt design? You should know what has come before you, what people are thinking about, and ways that you want to uniquely create whatever it is you're going for. And I can tell you one of the things that really strikes me, I'll go t-shirts. I have this one brand that I like. I'm not going to promote them on air, but what I like is their collar line is not stretchy. It's sewn. It's really like tightly sewn. And as crazy as it might sound, I've tried every t-shirt you can imagine. Every single Facebook ad, I buy at least 5 of them. I send them all back. And even Mikasa, he can tell you this because he knows he's been to my house multiple times, and he sees I wear one brand of shorts. I basically wear one brand of t-shirts. I wear one brand of everything because I find the one. And you know how I do that? By exhaustive research. And even when it comes to the clothing that I wear, I go that depth to try to understand what it is that I like about it, what I hate about it. And you should do the same. No matter what space you're in, you have the ability, the internet, to understand and go that level and contact people. I mean, I'll call people. I'm like, what do you think of this? What's your opinion on this? I'll ask my friends for reviews on t-shirts just so I can understand what they don't like about it.
Yeah, and I would add, what I would add to that, if you were whatever business that you're in, let's say you were in the t-shirt business, let's say you were in that business, the other add-on to that is knowing your competition inside and out. So not only can you know everything about why you're, but until you can say, you need to be able to distinguish yourself from your competition. Why? Because your customers are going to be looking at your competition. You need to be able to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and most importantly, what they suck at, right? Like where, the little things that what appears to be the same, right? So for example, I was using 2 different email marketing tools. I've been using 3 or 4 because I've been testing them all and all this good stuff, right? And they all look the same. And I got in there, and one of them was just the way it was handling images was a little goofy, right? But you would have never known that until you got in and used the tool. Most people could never use the tool because they never signed up to get done. So what that company should know is like, hey, I know we all look the same. Let me tell you what, if you want to use a tool that's glitchy with images, use their tool or use ours. Now I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. The only reason they can make that claim is if that must be true. I don't have time to go over there and figure out if that tool over there is glitchy with images. But guess what? Because they said it and it's probably true. That matters. That means that they're helping me understand what's important to me, because image management happens to be important. Somebody might hear that and go, you know what? I don't care. I care about this other thing. So it's truly knowing, like you with the t-shirt collar, that company that makes sure, say, hey, one thing about us, we know collars. So we know t-shirts, great. You know t-shirts, but guess what? We know collars.
It's funny though, because the one thing again, I'm just an honest, straight shooter. Like, I actually don't worry too much about my competition. God's honest truth. I know about them, but I spend more time on me than on them. I spend far more time. I just look at them. I'm like, okay, I'm quick surveillance looks. I'm like, I don't like this. It's almost like catharsis. I go in, I like purge out everything I hate about them real quick. It's a 5-minute look, and then I'm done with them. And then I don't waste any more time, because the more time I spend on them is less time I spend on myself. And I know that maybe that's a different mantra from you, and that's fine. We can have different opinions. But my opinion is like, I spend almost no time on my competition, because I look at them, I assess them quickly, I say what I like, I say what I don't like, I make a quick list, and then I'm done with them. I'll never, ever go back, just so you know. Even if they make adaptations, they make changes, the odds of me going back are very low, because I'm already locked and loaded going down my path. Okay? I'm very focused when I start.
Yeah, so if you were a t-shirt, so you're in that camp of, we're just going to be maniacal about the way we make t-shirts, and we're just going to have blind confidence that people will love us and will stick with us, and the competition can't be as good as we are, because we're just too good at what we do, right? So that's kind of the mindset of yourself. And you'll hit, if customers are, let's say you're in the t-shirt business, right? If you start hearing complaints from customers like, hey, this, like, I like it over there, you're going to pay attention. But you're not going to burn a lot of energy trying to understand the way they're doing it.
Sometimes what you're doing is, when you're looking at everybody else and what they're doing, you're trying to take the best pieces, and sometimes the best pieces all 4 together. And if you took 18 different Picassos and you put all the different best pieces from 18 Picassos and you put them together, it would be probably crap. That's probably crap, right? Like, it's not going to be great. It's going to be like a really bad Picasso.
Oh, absolutely. You should never, to be really clear, I would never recommend that anybody should engineer or build or design their product based off of competition. It's more about, you definitely want to build and create off of your vision of what it is. I was simply making the point that you need to be able to, once you lock that in, you need to be able to understand how you're different, so that you can properly, you can properly sell that and differentiate.
Like I said, I just don't spend as much time. I'll take a quick surveillance look, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But we just have different philosophies. And you're allowed to have a different philosophy. That's the beauty of it. This whole
Absolutely.
game is, I would never, the truth is, I would never do this. I would not be the host of the show.
Exactly. For example, like if you were in the t-shirt business and you have this amazing John Wick t-shirt, right? And somebody said to you, hey, I'm on T-Shirts Plus and they have a John Wick t-shirt. It looks just like that. It's pretty awesome. I bought it over there. It's $3 cheaper. You know, you'd be like, right? Yeah. I
don't care. That's not the space I'm in. That's not where I live.
Right.
It's like telling me, and here, I'll throw a brand out. I hate this brand. I hate it. This is a brand I actually hate. Invicta in watches. They model all of their watches after Rolex. Go ahead and look at Invicta's and then go back to Rolex. And to me, it's nothing more than a ripoff. I'll tell you right now, they're a lot cheaper, but you're never going to catch me wearing one because it's not about the price, right? It's about the aesthetics. It's about the feel, the wear, the fit. And that's the space that I currently like to live in. But if you're looking for price conscious, then you are in that space.
So guess what? So you just made my point. As a Rolex salesperson, you just did a great job of telling me why I don't want an Invicta watch.
Fine. Right.
Fantastic. Okay. Another question down here. So Joyce Michelle says, thank you. We're going to wrap up here in 5 minutes. Joyce Michelle says, thank you. Research and details, devil's in the details. For me, it would be creativity, curiosity, solving something that's annoying. And then and she says, what about Alan? Is Alan annoying? No, she means, what's my opinion on that? Do you, and then she goes, do you have partners? How do you find them? Okay. Joy, I'll take that one offline. Michelle, I'm not always sure I'm going to get the clarification with Joyce and Michelle. I'll follow up with her tomorrow and answer that question. So Eric, thanks for being on tonight, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
This has been great. And is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up? That where do you let's leave on this note. Where do you see us in 3 to 6 months as an economy generally, and then also where do we see Eric Ledermann? How do we see things for you personally?
So first thing I would say is, before I forget, stay safe. Can you do what we're doing, because it's clearly working. The worst mistake we can make is thinking that it's done, but we have to keep on holding true and staying fast to the things that are working for a longer period of time, and then slowly introducing ourselves back into what we would consider normal, right? New normal is definitely a reset, and we're looking at probably, from a medical standpoint, I'm going to say at least minimum 3-6 months, probably more a year of normal, right? To understand once we have a vaccine or something in the pipeline that's going to work, that we know that could hopefully curtail this if there's a second kind of round of this, okay? No panic, no fear, just continue doing what you're doing, stay safe. Economics, I think, will follow this. I still think we're going to see a huge downturn, which I think for people listening to this, massive opportunities, lots of opportunities in spaces that didn't exist before. Real estate's going to be cheaper. Rents are probably going to be cheaper. Creativity should be at an all-time absolute 100% high. You've mentioned that in other podcasts and other vlogs that you've done. I think you're spot on. You should be innovating, creating, doing more with non-financial resources, which use your brain, right? Use your words, get out there, network, communicate, contacting people, doing things like this where we're seeing each other virtually. Zoom meetings, okay, enough for those, right? Like, people have had enough Zoom meetings. But I think just picking up the phone, calling all your resources, seeing what they're doing. That's one thing I'm doing. I'm calling other radiologists saying, hey, what are you doing? Let me just get your resume just to have it on the burner. Because never know, if I spin up my own company or I spin my company a little bigger or whatever the case is, you want some resources in your pocket. And I don't think they only need to be dollars. So I think for Eric Ledermann, that's what the plan is. It's digging into my Rolodex, reaching out to people like you, Steve, Rich, other people. What's going on in my area locally? What's going on in my space for radiology locally, nationally, internationally? Where is there an opportunity? And, through 6 months, hopefully there's some uptick. But again, I'm being pessimistic. I'm a pessimist in some ways.
Yeah, well,
it'll take a year. At least.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I tend to subscribe the same way. I've got kind of two parts of my brain. I'm pretty good at it from a discipline perspective. I literally plan for the worst in my mind, but I kind of expect that, like, I'm pretty good at tricking my mind. It's been a thing that I've been able to do most of my life pretty well. Like, I thoroughly can convince myself that things are going to be really bad and really rough, and I need to prepare for that. Which really helps me do the things I need to do today to position, and also say the things I need to say in terms of advising and coaching and so forth. But and really down deep, I feel like that that we're going to be delighted when it's not as bad as we expect, and that's exactly the way I want it, right? That's exactly what I want. I want us to be like preparing for really tough stuff, and then it not to be as bad, and then to be like really relieved when that happens. So that's what my mindset is truly that. Truly preparing for a rough time, but then
I think everybody is. I mean, I don't really know many people that aren't. So yeah. I'm right there with you. Hopefully, everybody else is right there with you. We're all in the trenches, getting ready with our shovels. Right. The worst thing you can do is in the trenches, sitting around. Get your shovel. Let's start moving.
Yeah. Take actions. Take steps today. Well, Eric, man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to throw this up on YouTube tonight. It might take a few hours for the thing to process, but then by the morning for sure. And I think, by the way, this has been one of the more action-packed conversations I've had yet. So I think this is going to play well on the replay, honestly.
Great.
So thanks for doing that, and thanks for all your support.
Absolutely, man. Anything I can do. If anyone wants to reach out, listen, I'm always available. You got a cool idea, you want to run something past me, I'm always game to tell you where I stand, and you're going to get the truth.
That's cool. That's right. That's right. And if Eric likes it, you consider yourself, you might have something.
You
might just have something if this guy likes it, right? All right, my friend. Peace out.
All right, man. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thanks so much. Later.